In a world where developers and consumers lived in peace.
Or not peace, because some developers have a history of screwing over their own customers to the point where they cannot be trusted.
In a world where developers and consumers lived inside, one company decided to take it upon themselves to gain notoriety within the gaming community for their fraudulent practices, which in theory could put them out of business, but for some reason they are still alive to this day. I'm of course talking about G2A.com.
Fucking kill me.
G2A Limited is a company that specializes in selling gaming products. I need to put that fact out of the way before I delve into the video, and this is because I'm planning on letting you all know what type of environment and the risks you're putting yourself under if you buy from G2A. Before you claim that I'm jumping on some sort of bandwagon, which in all honesty is pretty much non-existent outside of Reddit and some areas of Twitter, a few of the things I'm going to be talking about are from personal experience, as well as the experience of many other users and developers that have been screwed over by this company. Technically continuing over from what Total Biscuit started when he made his video about the situation of Gearbox and G2A. G2A is notorious in the community for its various shady business practices, for example G2A Pay, and the fact that a significant portion of the games that are sold on the website are sold from stolen credit cards, which could potentially hurt the developer from chargebacks. Before I go into G2A's controversies and shady business practices, I will provide a hopefully brief introduction into G2A as a company. I know the title of the video is quite general in its wording. I will be talking about key resellers in general. G2A is the biggest and the most relevant out of all the grey market key resellers, which is why I go into detail about them and not other organizations like Kinguin or CD Keys. Formerly known as Go2 Arena, G2A was established in 2010 by Bartosz Squaszek and David Rozek in Poland as an online game retailer, with its main objective being to sell video games at the lowest possible price, which sounds like what it is now, doesn't it? As in, you can go and search for a game on their website and you will find a copy of the game at a substantially lower price than other retailers like Amazon, Steam and Game, among other places. He claimed that developers did not want to talk to G2A. Maybe they felt that the company was too young to be of any interest or too small to be taken seriously. As a result of the lack of interest from many developers and rapid variations in the market, the primary objective of G2A was not to be a seller but become a marketplace for young gamers.
Do that.
This statement will become extremely important later on in the video, so remember it. G2A delivers the platform for digital products to be sold, acting as an intermediary by connecting the buyer to the seller, and for frequent customers, G2A runs a subscription program called G2A Shield. This will also become extremely relevant later on in the video. G2A have a multitude of products that they can offer to their potential customers, such as clothing, games, partnership programs for publishers, a VR amusement park, and 3D printing, attempting to expand their reach in the community into places where you wouldn't think they would ever reach. G2A is also heavily involved in esports, investing millions into the scene and sponsoring professional gaming teams such as Cloud9 and Virtus Pro. They also do a lot of charity work, partnering with various companies and charities to provide help for people in need, such as Save the Children. With over 12 million users and availability in over 15 countries, it isn't surprising that G2A is a very large and influential company. This spills over into their business practices, however, and a lot of them are very, very shady. So now you know what G2A actually is, I guess it's time to discuss all of their shortcomings. There are many things that are wrong with G2A as a company, and they all boil down to the same debate that is flung around the internet. Are they legit? The simple answer is yes, but the more complicated answer lies in this thread, where it stated that
One thing to remember is that even if you receive a working key from a reseller, this doesn't necessarily make them legit. It's a bit like claiming that winning at Russian roulette makes it a safe game.
G2A's marketplace can be likened to something like eBay or Craigslist, which would probably be a more realistic representation of their practices, in which the consumers are essentially putting the trust in the sellers to give them exactly what they want without any issues or complications. And most of the time, further down the line, there may be some complications. So let's break down their most glaring problem, which is their tendency to harbor stolen Steam keys. G2A is a grey market. Now, a grey market is one that legally circumvents authorized channels of distribution to sell goods at prices lower than those intended by the manufacturer. So right off the bat, getting keys from G2A or even other resellers such as Kinguin is not illegal. There are lots more issues down the line that you may potentially run into if you were to buy from G2A in particular. The most obvious risk that can arise from buying from any grey market reseller is the fact that your game can be pulled completely from your library. Resellers have no way of verifying if the key that you have is valid or not, and cannot provide support without extreme measures such as watching your screen during activation. Because of this, the developers of many games will most certainly be uncertain as to whether the copy of the game that you have in your library is legitimate. This in turn would lead to it being pulled from your Steam library without warning. According to Polygon, in 2015, Ubisoft were the subject of debate, as if they haven't always been the topic of debate.
there's only one way this is gonna play out, right?
Doesn't happen.
When they revoked game keys of an unknown number of Uplay members, removing the game from the offending accounts in question, which in turn would block them from being launched remotely. According to the reports, many of the game keys Ubisoft found in the perpetrator systems had been brought from Kinguin and G2A. Ubisoft had determined these keys were brought with stolen credit card numbers, so it revoked the keys, highlighting an issue with G2A's integrity as a market for players to buy keys. In 2014, Valve removed the game Sniper Elite 3 from the Steam libraries of over 7,000 members, reported by Rebellion, the developers of the game. In essence, Steam keys were stolen or bought using counterfeit credit cards and then given to resellers like Kinguin and G2A, who then passed them on to unknowing buyers on their site. The only way Rebellion and publisher 505 Games found out about this act was when they didn't see any revenue from the sale of these keys, and they informed Steam, who revoked access from their games immediately. Now, if you do the math, that could amount to a lot of missed revenue from the game. As of 2017, the game cost £15 for its PS4 edition. If you multiply that by 7,000, this would mean that Rebellion and 505 Games lost over 100,000 in revenue from people buying second-hand keys. For a company like 505 Games, maybe that isn't a large amount, but if you then look to smaller developers of indie games who may have their keys stolen, then charged back unfairly by credit card providers, that is a lot of money. Now, as a result of these practices and many more, League of Legends developer Riot Games banned G2A from sponsoring any team that competes in League of Legends esports tournaments. In an article by a game developer named Leszek Lizowski titled "How to Get Every Game on Steam for Free," he highlighted the issues of scam artists and coin resellers, claiming that on September the 4th, him and his company Wastelands Interactive was working on a game entitled Worlds of Magic, and they made the collective decision to release the game on early access on Steam rather than sign with a publisher so that they can maintain their independence.
Story time!
In their press release on the same day, they encouraged journalists, YouTubers, and everyone of the like to request a preview copy of the game, as any other reasonable indie developer would do. They then uploaded Steam keys for their Kickstarter backers on September the 5th, but some people were unable to redeem their keys, and Leszek decided to help them manually by sending about 1,000 emails with Steam keys or with requests to confirm their previous emails. After this, they received tens of hundreds of emails from YouTubers asking for copies of the game, and various other sites asking for similar demands from the developers, with emails being flung back and forth and their forums blowing up with reports and reviews of the game. All of these emails from various YouTubers were answered very quickly, and the developers were so happy about all of this publicity that they didn't check their YouTube channels for legitimacy. One forum thread later, and the developers soon realized that there's a problem. It had been reported that Worlds of Magic, their game, was available for purchase on G2A.com for a much lower price than the original retail price. After some investigation, they bought some keys from the store and realized that they were the exact same ones sent out to the YouTubers that contacted Wastelands Interactive. This is when things get really shady. The developers went back to the emails that were sent to them and checked them thoroughly, and discovered that most of them were Gmail accounts with a single letter or number difference between the email name and the YouTube channel. Some of them were from Eastern European regional mailing domains and other random domain names. After finding this out, Wasteland added more authentication into their process, stating that in future, every YouTuber that applied for a Steam key would have to send them a message directly using their YouTube channel. From 20 requests, only 2 YouTube channels confirmed. 70% of the keys that they had given out were taken under false pretenses. Now, you can offer the excuse that they were blind and naive to the popularity of their own game, but as pointed out later in the article and by other organizations such as Kotaku, their own article titled "The Works of a Scam Artist," the day after it was revealed that most of their keys were stolen, the developers on the proxy decided to check if they weren't the only ones who were victims of such a crime. By testing this same method on other up-and-coming developers, they edited those emails to say something else and created multiple Gmail accounts, then went onto Steam, sorted by new and upcoming releases, then got to work emailing these developers asking them for a Steam key with a claim that they're a YouTuber with over 50,000 subscribers. In 3 hours, they got 16 keys for 15 games worth more than $400. Now imagine if you had bots doing this for days, and you could be making ridiculous amounts of money doing such an act. Of course, the developers who tested gave them their keys back and didn't resell them, but this is a common issue among many indie developers. They want people to test their game and probably wouldn't think twice about sending a client a Steam key. It is the joint mindset of the scammers drama and the scam that allows organizations like G2A to thrive. And the worst part is that in G2A's eyes, this is completely and utterly fine. Why wouldn't it be? You've acquired a Steam key from the developers themselves. In a similar story, the boss of multiplayer game speedrunners publisher TinyBuild sent out an email to Eurogamer accusing the site of laundering $450,000 worth of its games. He described the business as fundamentally flawed, facilitating a black market economy amongst other things. He noted that he'd start seeing thousands of transactions and their payment provider would shut them down within days. Moments later, one would see G2A being populated by cheap keys of games that they had just sold in their shop. After discussing with G2A about the financial impact the marketplace has had and asking for G2A for compensation, they simply replied with,
"Kiss my sweaty balls, you fat fuck."
Many people wouldn't have a problem with G2A if they ordered their Steam key collection method and actually looked at how much people are acquiring these keys. Similarly, their website is equally as shady as their practices. Recently, G2A themselves held an AMA session on Reddit with the intention of trying to distill a lot of the misconceptions that people had about how shady the company is, and it ended in a disaster for the company PR. In a conversation thread, funnily enough, about stolen keys, they claim to do what they can to prevent stolen keys, going through an extensive process to look for sketchy behavior, suspiciously refusing to go into details. The person who they are replying to is a G2A user and a seller, and he claims that every single game key he's ever sold is never checked by anyone and is put up straight to the marketplace. He then shows G2A that they're full of bollocks by setting out a self-described fake sale that lists the key as active, meaning that it can be purchased, and demonstrates that the key on their site is active. As a result, and I shit you not, this actually happened, instead of looking into the issue of verification, G2A bans his account. I have no idea how you can possibly think banning this person is the right thing to do, especially if your public relations are down the toilet. Now, my experience with the website, like many others, has been less than stellar, with a lot of issues in the user interface and their subscription services being ridiculously difficult to get out of. For example, G2A Shield. As G2A themselves don't sell the keys, there are sometimes issues with them failing to work properly, and this is why G2A offers a subscription service called G2A Shield. This protects you apparently from keys that don't work, but there's actually very little information on the website that actually tells you how the system works. According to PC Games N, G2A's customer service representative stated that G2A can still refund you if you get keys revoked or dud keys, but Shield shortens the waiting time for refunds from 9 days to 5 days. Now, at the described price of around £2 a month including taxes, you'd probably be wondering why this is even a thing, because it's a difference of 4 days to potentially get a refund. The main issue with G2A Shield is that it's ridiculously difficult to cancel. It takes an average of 16 clicks across 10 screens, with the very first screen asking you to confirm which Shield benefits you want to disable, and before allowing you to cancel, you have to click all 6 options. Then it asks you to tell them why you're leaving. After this screen, it offers you a half-price deal on something similar to entice you to stay. Then on the next screen, it offers you another deal. Then on the next screen, it asks you why you want to leave again. Then it tries to guilt trip you into staying. After this, you then have to verify your payment option, whether it be a credit card, debit card, PaySafe, or PayPal. Then you have to confirm the email. Also, when you get a game on G2A, it's a smallish option compared to the other payment information, and when you click to disable it, it offers a big pop-up encouraging you to re-enable it, offering buyer's protection, which in all honesty should be a free provision like eBay. This in turn leads to random charges on unknowing buyers' bank accounts, and that could lead to a lot of problems down the road. Recently, there was a tiny bit of drama when YouTuber Total Biscuit refused to partner up with Gearbox software for known titles such as Borderlands, Battleborn, and Borderlands 2 because of their association with G2A, and well, I'll just let him do the talking.
I made the decision to stop covering Gearbox games. The reason was fairly simple. G2A is a company that profits directly from stolen goods. G2A's existence as an easy place to sell keys acquired en masse through credit card fraud, thanks to their lax checks and lack of corporate responsibility, has done damage to indie devs, publishers, and retailers who are often hit with large numbers of credit card chargebacks. Small startup digital retailers such as Indie Game Stand had to shut down under the burden of credit card chargebacks. It is a serious issue, and it's not one that I take lightly. I felt that it was important to draw a line and take a stand on the issue, sending a message to publishers and developers that working with G2A is a mistake. G2A profits from the ignorance or apathy of gamers to their practices. The best way to hold them to account and ensure that they either change their ways or disappear is to ensure that people know exactly how they operate. Some of that ignorance evidently extended to Gearbox, who were not aware of several of these practices. After I sent them an email with a list of evidence along with statements I'd been gathering from developers, they asked for a conference call. During this call, I walked them through the evidence and explained some of the more complex concepts. I felt it necessary to ensure that I was not simply one person holding a grudge or, worst case, actively trying to sabotage a company for malicious reasons, which is why I provided such a wide variety of sources. Once they understood the various complexities of the issue, Gearbox proposed a solution. Gearbox Publishing heard loud and clear the concerns voiced by John Total Biscuit Bain. The following list of conditions must be publicly committed to prior to Bulletstorm's Steam launch. Within 30 days, G2A Shield, aka Customer Fraud Protection, will be made free instead of a separate paid subscription service within terms offered by other major marketplaces. All customers who spend money deserve fraud protection from a storefront. To that end, all existing G2A Shield customers are notified by April 14th that fraud protection services are now free and they will no longer be charged for this.
And there you have it, the tale of G2A and its shady at the very least practices. Now after all this and even more, I bet there's still a lot of people that will still be buying from G2A under the same and simple reason that it's cheap and convenient for them to use. And I honestly don't blame you. The idea of G2A is so enticing for one person to go to and use for their needs. But what if I told you there are other organizations that offer games for cheap and are actually ethical? For example, Humble Bundle. A system where a developer or a group of developers make a pack of games where you pay what you want for the games, with the money going to the developers, the charity of their choice, and the Humble Bundle site by allocation. And yes, it's legitimate. Also, why not wait for a Steam sale? The discounts would surely be bigger depending on the game, and it's from Steam themselves. There are alternatives, but you need to be willing to actually look for them. Thanks for watching this video. This was quite a lengthy one, but if you made it this far, congratulations. If you've watched the video, I asked you to leave a comment about what your thoughts and experiences are with G2A. I guarantee not all of them will be negative, but it will be a nice conversation to see. I'll hopefully be instigating a conversation on Reddit about this, and I will leave links to everything in the description, including sources. Subscribe to everyone who contributed to the video, and thanks to the many articles around the internet about G2A and other key resellers, and I will see you all in another video.